didn't stay because you were stupid. You stayed because your brain got high every time they apologized. And you weren't in love either. You were in withdrawal. Let me guess, they'd hurt you, they'd disappear, and then they'd come back with that fake sweetness. And your whole body, it would light up like a Ferris wheel, music and all. And that little feeling you'd get was like you'd been walking around in the desert for months and just got rescued. Oh, but they weren't rescuing you. They were actually the reason you were drowning to begin with. Oh, and somewhere in the middle of this cycle, you stopped asking yourself why being in this relationship felt a lot like dying. Well, that's because feeling like dying started to feel a whole lot like being in love. So let me break it down to you. They would disappear from you. They would get cold with you and start ignoring you and pull away. And then they would come back and give you just enough love to start it all over again. Your hope would reinitialize. So let me guess, what was it for you? A little good morning text, a little I miss you at midnight or 3 o'clock in the morning? I bet their phone was dead, didn't have a charger or something. They fell asleep after hours of silence. And they're sorry, aren't they? It's awful funny, though, that never happened with you. Never happened with them when they were around. And if it did happen with you, there'd be hell to pay, right? You know for a fact, there's always a charger, and they're always on that phone. It's like a damn lifeline to them. Without it, they're lost. But anyway, but no matter how mad you got, no matter how done you were, the moment they'd reach out, your chest would feel like it would melt just a little bit. You see, you thought it was romance, and you thought it was fate. You thought it was love, but it wasn't. See, that was distress. And you were experiencing relief. Your heart and your body and your spirit did not crave them. What you were craving was the relief of anxiety when they came back. And what you thought you wanted was love. What you wanted was the pain to stop. And you thought it was love because you had nothing else to compare it to. Hell, you probably never experienced it before. Like most addicts, deep down, you made yourself believe that if you could just love them hard enough and show them that it's real, that they would give you back the same love that you've been giving them. You even made excuses for them. It wasn't their fault. It was yours, wasn't it? You just wasn't loving them the right way. And if you could just get it right, you would finally earn the love from this person that you've been waiting for your whole life. Because they were the one, wasn't they? What the truth is, though, what was actually happening is, every time they left you, your cortisol levels would spike. That's your stress hormone. And every time that they would return, love bomb you and hit you up with those little sweet messages, you would get flooded with dopamine. That's your reward chemical. In reality, you was getting high off being hurt and then rescued by the same person who hurt you. That's a trauma loop. And doing the deed, that made it worse. See, oxytocin release was just bonding you to a person that your soul was trying to run from. In all real reality, your logic, see, it was screaming at you, telling you to let go, but your nervous system, it was convincing you that you needed them to survive. It was addicted to all those chemicals. And spiritually, you handed your identity to somebody who had no business holding it. Wrong person. And even worse, you submitted your worth to somebody who was never designed nor assigned to protect it to begin with. Ooh-wee. You wasn't just experiencing heartbreak, you was experiencing warfare. It was emotional, mental, and spiritual. It was supernatural and chemical. See, your body and your soul was being torn apart on a battlefield, and you wasn't even fighting on. You lost yourself because you thought that if you stayed, then they might finally see your value. You took all the bigger pieces of you that made up who you were, and you locked locked them away in a box, and then you took on everything else that you thought they wanted you to be. Go ahead, call me a liar. Was you doing things that you never did before? Was you saying things that you never said before? And was you allowing things to happen that you never let happen before? So, of course, we've talked about all the things you've done, I've done, but the bigger question is how do you tear down a system that you built just to survive? Something that you shouldn't have to feel like you needed to survive. It should have just been something that happened naturally. You know, when you give respect, you get respect. Vice versa, push-pull, 50-50, man. The thing is, anything that comes from God, it's not gonna get wrapped up in a pretty bow with a grenade boxed inside of it. And ever since then, your picker's been broke, hasn't it? Everybody you choose, it's a familiar situation. You know what to expect. Yeah, sure, it's gonna hurt, but that's just the way they are, and that's just the way you are. It's the type of love you deserve, right? We don't deserve none of that shit. We deserve a lot better, and so do they. So now, we have to tear down and disarm this whole system. And in order to do that, you have to confront it piece by piece. I, personally, had to dig up every single moment that I was afraid to speak up. I had to use my voice and say what I needed, even when I felt like my voice would crack. I had to stop checking their phone like I was a detective, and I had to start checking my own thoughts like they were infected, because they were. I had to sit in silence and not wait for their texts. I had to learn how to be still and be by myself without feeling abandoned. I had to learn how to not ask all those invasive questions that I was just dying to ask. You know, what did I do wrong? I must have did something wrong. Do you love me? What did I do? How can I help you? What do I need to do? I mean, tell me, talk to me. All that shit. I just quit one day. I just stopped. I had to stop self-isolating too, and stop ghosting people that I used to talk to. You know, all those friends that we pushed aside in order to spend time with them. I had to break habits that I got used to calling protection, second-guessing every compliment, and replaying every conversation like it was a crime scene looking for a lie. I had to stop assuming that everybody else would treat me the same way someone else did, because for a long time that's what I believed. But it wasn't true. It didn't come overnight. It wasn't dramatic either. It was something I did daily. It was boring, it was repetitive, and it was hard. Some days I felt like I was making about as much progress as if I was pulling nails out of wood one by one with a fork. I literally had to retrain my mind and my body to stop reacting like being in love or having a friendship was a threat. I had to let that part of me that only knew chaos, dysfunction, and pain finally go quiet. I had to stop entertaining it, stop obsessing, learn how to take every thought captive and give it up to something greater than myself, because, well, every human being I knew didn't do nothing but disappoint me. Even I let me down. And I mean anytime I got a negative thought, whether it was a thought about that relationship or even a lustful thought, a sinful thought, negative period. Dear Heavenly Father, just take this thought away from me, Lord. I don't want to think this, Father. I just want your will to work in my life, Father. You promised that you would heal me, Lord, if I come to you. And as a matter of fact, Father, I just want to thank you ahead of time for healing me, Lord. I want to thank you for the change in my life. I want to thank you for every consequence in my life. I want to thank you for the circumstances, every pain that I ever felt. I would go on like that sometimes for an hour. And I had to. At first, it felt silly, it felt stupid. It took months. It didn't happen overnight. But eventually, when it did start to happen, it almost would happen instantly. Within the first 5-10 seconds of me praying, hell, I'd forget what I was even praying for. I just knew that what I was doing was thanking the Father